to see how to deal with files. That means other than Python, going out from Python and retrieving those elements and doing some operation on that. Today we will also see how to know we are in which directory and how to change the working directory, all those stuff. So let me start with how to know we are in which directory in Python. So for that, we must know the operating system, its hierarchy. So here we can import operating system. In order to know the working directory, we have inbuilt method s dot get current working directory. We want to print it, so let us store in some variable, say cwd, and then we can print it. So let's see this. So you can see that c colon user slash admin, this is the current working directory where the Python is installed and we are doing the programming. Now, if you observe the folder names, it is here with slash forward slash. Okay, so let us try to print some escape characters. Say I want to print this. Whether it is going to work or not, we'll see now. Yeah, this is working. Print the other character, say this one.
जय सर
This is not working. Yeah.
सर आपका वॉइस लैग हो रहा है बहुत सर.
My voice is lagging. Hello. Is it okay now? Hello. Vijay sir. Hello. Hello, Vijay sir.
Yes sir.
Is it now okay?
I guess sir.
Huh?
Yes sir. Yes sir.
Yes.
Yes. Yes sir.
Okay. So I start again. So students, today we are going to complete file processing, and also we will come to know how to know the working directory where we are. So for that we will import import OS, and we have inbuilt method get cwd, means what, get current working directory, and I want to know the path therefore stored in this variable cwd and print. So I got this. Okay. I just wanted to print this character slash. Here it is showing some error. So this thing you have to use, this is called as an escape character. So in order to print it, you have to use two. First slash to indicate that you are going to print escape character, and then the escape character. Now let's see that run. So it is printing. Okay. So here in this program above, this slash path, I would just want to change it. I will make it the normal where you can see here the path is mentioned. with the forward slash. So I just want to change that. So editing that program, replace method, I want to replace this slash. So I have to write 2 times. Okay, replace with the other slash. This one. Yeah, this is readable by Python. In order to read this, you have to use 2 slash. Printing that we have changed. Okay. Now, say we want.
Hello, Jay
Help.
sir.
Huh?
Sir, there is a voice lag, sir.
Sir,
Actually, you're not audible, sir. No,
not
you are
audible.
audible, but the voice is breaking a lot.
So can you take over, sir? Because I
Okay.
think because maybe net issue or I don't know. Sometimes it works, sometimes it don't.
Uh, Vijay sir.
Yes, sir.
Sir, can you start, sir?
Yes. Just give me 2 minutes.
Uh, okay, sir.
Sorry, I don't know why. What is the reason? So what can be the reason, sir?
Um,
Because
in, internet connectivity problem.
I think because I'm using my data pack and here, as you know, that the range is unstable.
OS dot list directory. Okay, and let's say if I'm storing it in lst underscore dr is equal to, and I'm going to print this. So in this cell, if you'll see, what we are doing is we are determining whichever files are existing in the current working directory. So those files we are displaying here with the help of the print method. So the method is list directory. So under this, my PyData folder, these are the different files which are available within that directory in which I'm presently working. Now, if you want to see here, sorry. Now this thing is giving you the names of the files as the elements of a list. But what if we want all these elements one below the other and not as a list? So for this, you will be using the for loop for file in os.list directory. And then I'll say print file. When you execute this, you will get this output. That means all the files which are existing in your current working directory, all those files would be listed one below the other. Whereas in the previous one, it was giving you the output as a list. And the elements of the list were nothing but the names of the files which are within this Py space data folder, the directory, you can say. Now, if you want to display the list of files present in specific directory, not in the current working directory. So in whichever directory you want to list down all the files, so you can do the same thing. You will be using the same for loop. Just here, you will be passing the path wherever you want to list down all the files. So just give me a second. I'll tell you. if you not mention that where you want to determine the list of files, then by default it will give you in the present current working directory. Whereas if you mention the path where you want to determine all your files, then you have to mention the file path. You have to mention the path till the directory. Just a second.
Uh, sir, replace that backslash with forward slash, sir.
Mhm. Okay, so if you see that specific directory, you can mention, you have to mention the complete path, and there it will give you all the files one below the other, the names of the files. This is the one way. Then the second way is you can change the current working directory. But right now, which is your current working directory? The current working directory I am working is, this is the current working directory. Okay. Then the other way what I could have done is, I would have switched the current working directory to this path. Okay. I could have made this as a current working directory. And in the same way, I can display the list of all the files without mentioning the path of the directory over here. So we'll do this. Let's say if I'll see what is my current working directory. So I'll say print os.get cwd. Okay, it says c:/users vijay desktop and pi data. And then I want to change my directory. So you will be saying os.chdr, and in parentheses you have to mention the path where you directory which you want to make directory. So let's say I'm copy pasting this part and I want to make this as my current working directory. So once this is done, and then I want to again check that which is my current working directory. So right now it is giving me the new directory which I have set as my current working directory. Okay, so it is giving me c:/users with a desktop and Python class. When you are already there in the current directory and you want to list down all the files, then you need not mention the path till the directory as a parameter to this list directory method of the OS module. So simply you need to run it and then it will give you all the files which are present in the directory, which is your current working directory. And then after that, what is the next task is, let's say you have to determine the file, the current directory in which you are working. There would be various, it can consist of various subdirectories and the files within the directory. So your task is not to determine whether the specific content of the directory is a file or it is a subdirectory. So what you need to do is, I'll switch back to the previous directory. So let's say I'll define this as my path. So I'll say path is equals to, and I'll copy paste this entire path. Once this path is defined, then I'll print this path just to see. Okay, so it is giving me this path, whatever you have defined. Now what I'll be doing is, you will be going through various files which are there in this directory. So you'll be using the for loop. So for file in os.list directory. Now what you have to do is, you have to determine what is a file path. So file path is equals to path. Path would be same for all the files which in whichever directory you are working, and then plus you're putting a slash, okay, to indicate the subdirectory or the file. And then I'll put plus file. This file will this path would be same for all the files which are residing in this PySpace data folder. And file will give you what? File will give you the name of the file, whichever file is there in this directory. And this is simply pluses for the concatenating. Then I'll say if os.path is directory, file path. So we are using the concept of ternary operator over here. If os.path is directory, so whatever will be the file path, it is checking whether if it is a directory or not. If it is a directory, what we are going to do is, we will print the file path. We'll print the file path, okay, and we'll say it's a directory. And in case if this condition is not satisfied, the control will go to the else part, and it will say else print the file path is not a directory. So I'll just explain, I'll just take you to this, what we have written over here. We are defining some path, okay? This is nothing but the path in which you are currently working. If you are not working in the current working directory, this path, then you have to change the working directory. But right now I'm in this directory itself, so I'm not supposed to change my current working directory. So that I've verified with the help of this print. Just you are displaying this print, and then for file in os.list directory. So whichever files would be there in this directory, what it is going to do, it will determine the file path for all the files. So file path would be about, the path of this file would be whatever is the path that you have defined, that is still the parent directory, plus the name of the file. This plus is used for the concatenating. And then we are using the ternary operator here, and we are saying if os.path.is directory file path. So if it is a directory, then it will display this message saying that whatever is the file path is a directory. If it's not a directory, it will go to the else path, and it will say print whatever would be the file path is not a directory. So let's run this. So the first statement that you can see here is nothing but whatever is the path that I'm printing. Then after that, it will go for the first file in that directory PySpace data, okay? And then it is determining the file path. File path is nothing but whatever path I've defined over here. It is appending that with the name of the file, and then with the help of if, okay? As it is a directory, so hence it is saying it's a directory. And then for rest all, it is saying that it's not directory because all are the files. Only there is one directory, which is this IPNB underscore checkpoints. It's a directory test all our files. These are not the directories. So basically to determine whether anything is a file or if it is a directory, so you will be using os.path.is directory, and you have to mention the complete file path. I hope this part is clear to determine whether it's a directory or a file. Is this clear to everyone? Is this part clear? Should I explain you once again? Please post in the group. Okay, so people are saying to explain once again. Okay. Now, what is your task is you are currently in some directory. Within that directory, you can have subdirectories. You can have various files also in that directory. That is also possible. So what we are going to do is I'm defining a path variable over here. What is this path? This is nothing but the path of my directory, which is my current working directory. So I'm defining the path over here, and that same path I'm just displaying. Okay, no need of displaying over there. Then what I'll be doing is I'll be going through every file in this directory in which I'm currently working. Okay, so I'm working within this PySpace data directory. So it says for file in os.list directory, for every file, what it is going to do, it will determine the file path for every file. Okay, how it is going to determine the file path? So the file path would be whatever is the path that I have defined over here, which is this one, and plus is used for the concatenation, and then slash I'm going to put at the end of this directory, and then file. What is this file? File would be nothing but the name of the file that we have seen previously. As you have seen in this case over here, when you are printing this file over here, what it is displaying, it is simply displaying the name of all the files which are present in the directory which you have mentioned over here. So same way over here, this path would be the path till the parent directory, which I have defined over here. File would be nothing but the name of the file. Okay. And then we are using the ternary operator over here in the last statement where we are checking if os.path.is directory file path. So we'll be passing this file path completely to this is directory method. Okay. Once it would be passed, if it would be true, it will execute this print statement. It will execute this print statement if this condition is true. Okay, what we are printing in this statement, file path is a directory. Okay, if it is not a directory, then it will go to the else path. In else path, what it is displaying is whatever would be the file path is not a directory. So if you can see here for all these output statements, this part is common for all the subsequent lines till this. C:/user / Vijay / desktop / PySpace data / okay. This till before this slash is nothing but my path, which I have already defined. And I'm putting this slash over here. After this plus sign that you can see plus in single quotes, I've put a slash and then plus whatever is a file name. So whatever would be the file name that I have included over here. So here you can see .ipynb underscore checkpoints. So if you want, I can show you also this. So now if you'll see in this, my PySpace data directory, okay, which is the parent directory, these are the different files. there is only one directory. So that's why we were getting only for this dot IP and pynb underscore checkpoints as a directory, whereas rest all are files. So hence for the rest all we were getting it as a not a directory, whereas only for the first one we were getting it as a directory. Yes, you can get. Then Crystal is asking that how can we? So can we also get how many files are there in a particular directory? Then you can get it. You will be initializing the count variable as 0, and wherever that condition would be true, then simply you will be incrementing the counter. So is this part clear? To determine whether a specific file is a directory or it's a file in a parent directory. Shall we proceed ahead? Okay. Now your next task is what? You have to display only the files with specific, let's say, extension. Now, if you want to display only the files which are text files, or only the JPEG files, or only the PY files, so that can be done. So just I'll copy paste this part over complete code over here. Now I want to retrieve all the files which are your PY files, which are ending with specific extension. So what you will be doing is, again, you will be going through every file in that directory. So I'll say for file in os.list directory, and then I'm creating a file path. That file path is nothing but it's a combination of path which I have defined over here plus the file. This file would be nothing but the name of the file. Okay, then I'll say here if os.path dot is directory. Okay, and I'll pass the file path. If this thing is equals to false, and file path dot ends with. Now, whichever type of files you want to display, okay, so I'll just copy paste from here. And I'll be displaying that file along with its path. Okay. Now we'll see this. What is there in this code snippet is for file in os.list directory. So basically, we'll be going through every file in that directory. Then we are determining the file path, which is nothing but the combination of path, which I have defined over here, and it would be appended with the name of the file. Then in this if condition, what I'm checking is if os.path.is directory file path is equals to false. Okay. What is the meaning of this statement? This statement will be telling you that whatever is that complete file path, if it is not a directory, okay, because we want to determine all the files which are ending with this extension .ipynb. I am concerned with only the files which are ending with extension ipynb. So first of all, I'll be checking that it should not be a directory. It should not be a directory. So hence we'll check, we are checking that in the first condition. saying that os.path.is directory of that complete file path is equals to false. Okay, so that means it is a file, it is not a directory. And then the second part we are defining in the condition is that file path dot ends with. So ends with is a method which is used to determine that your file should end with this extension .pynb. If both the conditions would be true, then it will give you the file path. That means along with the path which you have defined. So if you'll execute this here, am I going wrong here? So if you see over here, so it is displaying all the files which are ending with this extension .ipynb. Okay, so to display all the files ending with a specific extension, what you need to do is, first of all, you need to check that it is not a directory. So that part is being taken care by the first condition. Okay, and in the second part of the condition, you are checking that that file should end with this extension .ipynb. And then it will give you all the files which are ending with that specific extension. Is this example clear to everyone? I hope nothing is difficult in this example. Just we are making this if condition, which is consisting of the two sub condition. The first part is that it should not be a directory. And the second part is, second condition is that that file should end with this extension, whichever file extension you want to display. Shall we proceed ahead? Just let me know in the group if it's clear or not. Okay. Now what we are going to do is we'll be accessing the files. Now how to access a file? Basically, there can be different modes in which you can access the file. It can be read-only mode, it can be write mode, it can be append mode, it can be read and write mode. Okay, so how we can read a file? So I have some file which is existing in the directory. I'll just show you that file as well, and then we'll work with it. Is this file visible in the group on your screen? So I have some file which is abc.txt which I have already created, okay, with some content saying hi, how are you? Some random content I have put over there. Okay, so this is my file abc.txt. Now I'll be reading the content of this file. So how we are going to read the content of this file? Okay, to read the content of a specific file, you will be using with open. Okay, with open what the name of the file which you want to open. So I'll be saying abc.txt. Okay, now I want to open this file in read mode. Simply, I want to read the content of this file. So even if you're not mentioning the mode over here, so by default, it will be considering it as a read mode, because read mode is a by default mode when you'll be working with the file. Okay, and then I'll be creating the handle to handle that file. Let's say F. You can use any name over here. It's simply just as a reference to that file. And then I'll say f.read, and I'll print this. So when I'm printing the content of this file, so it is giving you exactly whatever is the content of that file. Though I did mention the mode over here, as default mode is a read mode, so it is considering it as a read mode. Then the next mode is a write mode. The write mode, what it will do is, let's say I'll be creating a new file. Okay, I'll be creating a file with open what we'll say new.txt, comma W. W stands for the write mode, as F, okay, which is nothing but the reference or the just a handle which will which is used for accessing the content of the file. So I'm opening a file named as new.txt, comma W. W stands for write mode over here. So you have to put it in quotes. Now what the system will do, it will check whether this file new.txt already exists or not. If it doesn't exist, then it will create the file first and then it will write into that file. I'll say file.write. How are you doing? Okay. We are opening a file with the name new.txt. If this file new.txt doesn't exist already, it will create that file first and then it will open in the write mode. And then F is nothing but just as a reference to that file. And then we are saying file.write. How are you doing? Okay. So I'll just execute this here. Okay, because the handle or the reference that I'm using is F over here. So mistakenly I have mentioned here file. So I'll simply say f.write. So with open new.txt, comma W as f.write, how are you doing? Now, if you want to check whether this text is already written or not in your file with the name new.txt, so I'll show you. So you can see here there is a file which is created as new.txt. Previously, this file was not existing in this directory. So when you open this, it says, how are you doing? Is this part clear how to write into a file? This is what the content of the file that I have written over there in the file script. Now after this, let's say if I'm trying to write something over here or writing something over here, I'll say f.write test. Okay. And I'll execute this. You're getting some error. Now what is this error is basically it says IO operation on a closed file. Now what is the meaning of this? Once you will come out of this block, then your file is closed. Okay. In the first statement, we are opening that file. Whatever operations you have to perform on that file, you will be including within this block. As soon as you come out of that block, then by default, your file would be closed automatically. You're not supposed to mention it explicitly. And after closing that file, if you are trying to write something, then it will give you this error saying that IO operation on closed file. If I would have done something over here, like if I'll press tab over here and when you'll execute this, it's not giving you any error. So once the file is closed, you cannot perform the operation. So basically you have to open the file to perform any operation. Now, if you want to see the content of this file, we'll see the content of that file over here. I'll paste the path here and I'll say new.txt. So it is saying, how are you doing? And then after that, I have written one new line, which is test, but it is writing on the same line. Okay. So if that is a case, if you want to print something on the new line, then you have to put /n character over here. And when you run this part over here, and if I refresh this, then you can see that the test has appeared on the new line. Now let's say some file is already existing with you, some content is already there. If you want to append something new to that file, so you will be using append mode. So I'll say with open, okay, you have to mention the name of the file, which would be new.txt. And then you have to mention the mode as append as A. A is for the append, as F is nothing but the reference. And then I'll say F dot write. I'll print this on the new line. I'll say something is appended. Okay. So you will be opening that file new.txt, which is already existing, which you have created previously, and you want to open this in an append mode. So you will say A stands for the append, and then you will write something new. F dot write method is used to write something, and I want to display this part. Something is appended here on a new line rather than on the same line. So I have used /n over here. So if you will execute here and see the content of this, if I refresh over here, it says something is appended here. So this append method will always append the new thing at the end of the file. Now, as you can see that this new.txt is already existing. So if I'll open this again in the write mode with open new.txt, comma, in write mode as F, and then let's say if I want to say what has happened? Okay, you have a file with the name new.txt. You want to write something. You want to open that file in a write mode. So you'll be using WSF, f.write what has happened. Okay. Now when you run this code, and if you'll check the output of that file, see previously this was the output of that file new.txt. But when I'm refreshing this over here, you can see that what has happened has appeared. So that means if you are using the file in the write mode, then if it was already existing, it would be overwritten. If you are using the file, if you are opening the file in the write mode, if it is already existing and if you are trying to write something new to it, then it will be overwritten. Okay, so you have to make sure that in which mode you are opening the file. If you want to add the new part at the end of the file wherever it was getting over, you can use append mode. I hope this part is clear. Reading, writing, append, and you can open the file with open, I'll say new.txt, comma, I'll say r plus sf f dot write reading and writing. Okay, so this r plus mode is used if you want to read as well as write. So I'm saying f dot write reading and writing. Execute this and refresh it over here. It is saying reading and writing. But if you want to read this part, print f dot read. Just a second. So you can read it first, then you have to write it. Okay, when you're reading it, the content was reading and writing, and then you are writing something into the file with the help of f dot write. In double quotes, I've mentioned slash and new, so that part has appended on the new line that you can see over here. So I hope this is clear that in which different modes you can access the file. You can make use of WW is for the write mode, A is for the append, R is for the read mode, R plus is for read as well as write. Just one more thing I would like to show here. Now in this code, if you can see here, I have mentioned 4 over here for the f.read method. So 4 is nothing but the number of characters I want to read. I have written print f.read 4. 4 is nothing but the number of characters. So how it is 4 characters. So this is 1, 2, and the third one is a new line character. And finally the fourth one is h over here. If I'll say 10 here instead of 4, it will give you the 10 characters. So you can see the 10 characters of that file. And if you say only read line method is used to read the complete line. So I have, you can see only the first line is being read. If you want to read the second line, then again you have to make use of this same print. Then it will give you the first and second line. And if I'll say read lines, so it will give you the output, which is consisting of all the lines as the elements of this list. So this is with the regards of performing the basic operation on the files. I hope you all have downloaded that file haberman.csv, which was shared in your group yesterday. Okay, so we'll see that how we can work with the CSV files.
Vijay sir?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I can continue, sir.
Okay, okay.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
So, good morning, class. Vijay sir?
Yes, sir.
So, you can stop your screen sharing. I'll
Yes,
start with
sir.
mine.
Yeah.
So, good morning, class. Am I audible? Okay, thank you. So, we'll start with that haberman.csv file. Basically, this is a very first step of a data science using Python, where we are going to analyze some data, read some data, and so on. So, the name of our actually downloaded file was haberman.data. Am I right? It was HABERMAN dot data. So we simply have to rename this as haberman.csv. That's it. We don't have to do anything else. So haberman.csv file, basically CSV is the extension which stands for comma separated values. So what do you mean by comma separated values? Comma separated values means the values present in the file are separated by commas. Values present in the file are separated by commas. So let's start by reading the file first, and then we will go into details of that file. So we'll start with CS. First, we will import the module OS, and then I'm changing the directory to my current directory. Just let me copy paste the current directory name. And let us list the contents of file also, just to check I'm working in proper directory. So you can do it using for loop for file in os.list dir print file. Sorry, so this is not the directory or something like, yes, this is the file. So haberman.csv file is there. So I'm in a proper directory. So if we want to read a file as sir discussed, we can simply read it using this thing with open. So with is something which is very useful. Sorry, it should be with open, not while open. So when we are working with files using with open file name and all, we don't need to close the file. Python implicitly closes the file for ourselves, and file does not remain closed. Sorry, does not remain open. Haberman.csv. I'm not mentioning anything, so by default it will be open in read mode. Haberman file file handle, and here I want to read the file. I want to read the file line by line. So how can we read the file line by line? So in Python it is very simple. I can simply write for line in Haberman file, and I can simply say print line. Something is wrong. Spelling mistake with. And here I am saying end is equal to nothing. So I can read the file line by line using one for loop. So here line is not any keyword or something like that. It's a variable name. I can write anything like this, like ln. I can write ln also. So what it does, this for loop, we can read the file line by line. If I want to read the entire file in one attempt, so we can do that thing also using read method also. But when we are processing CSV file, it is a good idea to process the file line by line. So this is how you can read the file line by line. Class, any doubt in this thing? If yes, so then please post it on a group. So, okay, good. There is no doubt. So we are reading a line. We are reading a file line by line. Okay, please explain again. Okay. I'll start with something like this. See, what we want to do in Haberman.csv file, there are many lines. In Haberman.csv, there are many lines. So there are two ways. Either I can read entire file in one attempt and then parse that file in one line. So read the entire file and then parse that file in one line. Second approach is, instead of reading entire file in one attempt, we can read one line from file at a time. This is a really good approach. Why? Because while dealing with data science problems, sometimes we need to deal with files of size 4 GB, 8 GB, sometimes up to 100 GB also. So when we are dealing with such a huge files, it's not a good idea. It's not a good idea that reading 100 GB file in a memory in one attempt. It is not a good idea to read 100 GB file in one attempt in a memory and then process that file, because we don't have that much memory. 100 GB RAM, it's not available. So but what is the better idea? Read that file line by line and process that file line by line. So Python has an implicit functionality how we can read a file line by line. So Haberman file in this case our, so when I'm writing something like this, that with open which file, Haberman dot CSV, open this file, and when we say as, it means what? Haberman file. Now Haberman file is a handler. This variable is a handler variable. So basically this points to the file. This Haberman file variable or this object, this points to this file. And if I'm writing something like this, for line in Haberman file, so what it will do? Now we are telling this handle to read one line from a file, to read one line from a file, and that line will be that line will be copied into this variable. So here I can write line as a variable name, or I can write ln as a variable name, or I can write anything as a variable name that I want. But just to make it meaningful, I'm writing like this, like for line in Haberman file. So now Python is telling this thing from this handle, or use this handle to read one line from the file and copy that into this variable. And now what we are doing, we are simply printing that line. And then we are saying end is equal to null. So why we are sending end is equal to null? Because when you read a line from a file, means what? At the end of a line, there is \n character. Reading one line means what? Reading the sequence of characters till \n, and \n is also part of a line. So if I'm not using this thing, end is equal to nothing, what will happen? After every line, it is printing one empty line. Just to avoid that, I am saying end is equal to nothing. Any doubt in this reading file line by line? Class? Shubham, I hope your doubt is clear. Or say, I guess now you don't have any doubt. Or still, if you have any doubt, please let me know. Shubham, am I audible? Class, am I audible? Okay, so means you have no doubt. Good. So now instead of printing the line, what we should do is, now let us understand what this data set is. This data set is a old data set available on UCI repository, from where you can download it, or you may have downloaded it also. So this data is consisting of 4 columns: column 1, column 2, column 3, and column 4. So this file is called as CSV file, that is comma separated values file, because these 4 values are separated by comma. So the file in which values are separated by comma is called as comma separated value file, or CSV file. And suppose if in a file values are separated by tab, if in a file values are separated by tab, it is called as TSV, that is tab separated values. But most widely used format is CSV, comma separated values. So here 30 first attribute is the age of a person. Basically this data set is about patients who have undergone breast cancer operation, and the data specifies that whether the operation was successful or not, and the criteria for that was, if person survives for more than 5 years after operation, if person survives for more than 5 years after operation, then operation is successful. And if person does not survive for more than 5 years, that is a person dies before 5 years, then they said the operation was unsuccessful. So it was something like that. So the first value specifies the age of a person who undergone the operation. The second value is the year in which operation was performed. 64 means it is 1964 operation was performed. Operation was performed in 1964. One means how many problems were there, or like how many nodes were there in a breast. And one means yes, it was successful. Patient survived for more than 5 years. And if it is 2, it indicates operation was not successful. Person died before 5 years after the operation. 2 means person died within 5 years after the operation, and 1 means person survived for more than 5 years after the operation. So first value age of a patient who undergone the operation. Second value year. 64 means 1964. Here it is 69 means 1969. Here it is 60 means 1960. Then how many nodes were there in a patient? And finally 1 means person survived for more than 5 years, and 2 means person survived for less than 5 years. Any doubt, class? Batch, any doubt? If no, please post so that I can start with next line of code. Okay, thank you, Ashwini. So if I want to process this file, my first step should be divide this file into multiple values. My first step should be divide this file into multiple values. I have a simple question for a class. Are you really with me in a class? That are you getting all the points, or should I need to revise any point or previous thing? Because right now it's like students are leaving the class, so I don't know what actually it is. So it is because of network issue, or they are not getting the thing? Okay, thank you, class. So I hope it is the second point that they are leaving because of some network issue or something like that. Thank you. So instead of printing, what we should do is we should split that file. We should split the line into an array. So we know there is a method. Which method is there? Line dot split. So this method can split the line into multiple values based on some separator. And in this case, our separator is comma. As we can see it 30, 64, 1, 1, and so on. And we are receiving it into okay, Aaron. So some of your friends are asking you to record the session. Thank you. So we are writing, let us say, data array. So what I'm doing, we are splitting the values and storing that values into a data array. So let us say now we'll print this data array. Now we can see 30 is first value, 64 is second value, 1 is third value, and next one is another value. But if we, as we can observe, these values are string values. But what we want is a number. These values are string values, but what we want is a number. So can we solve this problem? Yes, we can solve this problem using list comprehension. So how can we do it? It's simple thing. We can use for loop, something like this. We can say for, let us say, value in line dot split. So line dot split will split the line into multiple values, and this for loop for val in line dot split will iterate through those values one by one, and we want to convert those values to integer. So we'll use int function, int in bracket val, so it will convert those values into integer, and now our array will be an integer array. So now if I'm running this thing, see it is 30, 64, 1, 1. These values are no more separate, enclosed by single quote. Means this is a array of number values, and now this, since these things are numbers, we can process them easily. Class, any doubt in this thing? Okay, so sir, can we use list mapping for this thing? Yes, you can use list mapping also. You can use list comprehension also. If you want, you can use tuple comprehension also. We can use anything. We can use anything. Class, you got this code? Yes or no? If yes, please say so. So we'll move forward. Or should I write it in a simple manner? Okay, thank you. So it's like it's a list compression. It's a Pythonic way of doing this thing. Now what we want is first we want year as 1963, 1964. We don't want year as 63 or 69, something like that. Why? Because if someone is seeing data after 20 years, you don't know whether it is a 1964 or 2064. If someone is observing a data after some period of time, 1964 or 1864 or 2064, no one knows. So we want data to be more meaningful data. So what we can do is we can modify it. So this is the second value in a list. Am I right? First 0th value is 30. First value is 64. So what we are supposed to do is data array of 1 is equal to data array of 1 plus 1900. So what we are doing, we are adding 1900 to it. So 64 will become 1964, 59 will become 1959, and so on. And now if I'll print this thing, print data array. So now this thing is more meaningful. So now it is 1964 or something like that. So now year is clear. Yes, I can make it something like this also, which is more simpler. That's data array 1 plus equal to 1900. So now it is a simple thing. So we are reducing the amount of code. Second thing, what we want is this one is okay. One means successful, that person survived for more than 5 years. 2 means unsuccessful. So can we convert it into binary values? That is 1 we will keep as it is. But if operation was unsuccessful, then can we replace 2 by 0? Yes, we can replace 2 by 0. So here we can replace 2 by 0 using if statement, like if data array of third location. Am I right? This is 0th location, first location, second location, and third location. If this third location is 2, then we can replace it. Data array of 3 is equal to 0. So means if it is unsuccessful, we are making it to 0. We are making it to 0. And I am deleting it from here and pasting it over here and print. Oh, something went wrong. Data array. Yes, here. And now we can observe here. It is 0. This is 1. So why we did this? Because when you are talking about data science, or particularly when you are talking about machine learning, they deals with binary classes. Normally, binary means what? 2 classes, 1 and 0. So according to them, 1 means success, 0 means failure. According to them, 1 means success and 0 means failure. And here, when we get a data, it was like 1 means success, and if it is not successful, we have written it as 2. But which contradicts with our common understanding or common convention. So we replace it from 1 to 0, sorry, 2 to 0. And since the data was old, year was written as 64 or 62 or 59, something like that, we change it to 1964 or 1959, something like this. This is called as data pre-processing. This is called as what? Data pre-processing or data engineering, where we are converting the values in a manner that we want. We are converting the values in a manner that we want. Class, any doubt in this thing? No? Okay. So someone is tapping. Okay, thank you, Kevin. So now what we want to do is, we want to write the modified contents. These are the modified contents. We want to write back those modified contents in a file. we want to write those modified contents back in a file. So how can we do it? It's very simple. Let us say first we'll open a file with open. Which file we want to open? It is haberman.csv. Haberman.csv file we want to open as Haberman file. So Haberman file is a handler for this file. So can we open two files in one line? Yes, we can open two files in one line. So we are opening haberman.csv file in a read mode, and using comma, we are opening another file. Let us say updated.csv file. Oh, sorry. We are opening updated.csv file, and we are opening that file in write mode. Means what? We want to read this. We want to read a content from haberman.csv file, update the contents, and write the modified content in Haberman updated.csv file, and the handler for updated file, let it be updated file. So you can updated file. Oh, so updated file is just a handler, and handler is a variable name. You can write it anything. It is not necessary that we should write updated file only, or it can be anything. Colon and enter. Now here we have opened two files in one line, one for reading the data and another for writing the modified data. And now we are reading the file line by line for line in Haberman file. Now what we did is we split it into a data array. Data array is equal to line dot split. We did something like this, and after that what we did, or okay, just let me copy paste this thing. And the next thing that we did was we modified the values. Like we changed the year from 69 to 1969 and so on. We change this thing, and now what we are supposed to do? We are supposed to write this data back into the updated file. We are supposed to write this data back into the updated file. So there is a simple method print. We can use this method to write the data back into the updated file. So how can we do this thing? How can we do this thing? How many values are there? There are 4 values. There are total 4 values. So we'll write first value, then second value, comma, third value, comma, fourth value. This we know already that we can use this thing, opening closing curly brackets, to fill the values, and then we are writing format. So here it will be data array of 0, that is our first value, then data array of 1, that is our second value, then data array of 2, that is our third value, and then data array of 3. These are 3 values. But we know that print statement prints the data on a screen. We know that print statement prints the data on a screen, something like this. Oh, what I miss? So there was a typing mistake. Nice one. So we know that print statement prints the data on a screen, but we can use print statement to print the data in a file also. Thank you, Shubham, for pointing it out. We can print the data in a file also, and for that we can use file is equal to updated file. So what we are saying, now we are telling the print statement here. So to print this thing, not on a screen, instead of that, print in a file pointed by updated file handler. print in a file, print this thing in a file pointed by updated file handler. So now if I'll run this thing, there is nothing on a screen. If I'll run this thing, there is nothing on the screen, but we have a code for reading the file. We have a code for reading the file. So what we will do is we will read the file. We will read the updated file. So with open updated dot CSV. Now we are opening this file as a updated file, and then it is for line in updated, for line in updated file, let us say print line. I forgot one thing, end is equal to this thing. So now we have written the updated contents in a new file. So we read the haberman.csv file, modified the data according to our requirement, and then wrote the contents in a new file. And we can observe it. Yes, the contents are modified. Year is there, then instead of 2 there is 0. Then there is a very basic question. Why we wrote the contents in updated new file? Why can't we modify the same file? Yes, if we want, we can modify the same file, but we should not modify the same file because we want to keep original content as it is. We want to keep original content as it is, and we are creating a new file for updated content. This is a very common practice in data science or machine learning, that if you want a data in a different format, you create a new file and write the updated data in new file. You create a new file and you write the updated data in a new file, so that old format as well as new data, both data is available to the user. So Darshan, there is a comment, sir, can we copy the content of one file into another file? Yes, Darshan, you can copy the content of one file into another file. There are direct methods. Directly you can copy and paste the file. Like in Python, there are functionalities to create the file, to delete the file, to rename the file, and to copy the file. We don't need to write loops over there. There are single line commands. If possible today or in next session, we will see that how to create the file, how to rename the file, how to create the directory, how to delete the directory, how to delete the directory recursively, how to rename the file, and everything we are going to learn. I guess Darshan, I answered your query. So in a data science, it is a very common practice to write the updated contents in a new file. So if you don't have any doubt, we'll move to next code. That is analyzing some data present in a file. That is analyzing some data present in the file. So now we are supposed to analyze the data present in updated file. So what we are supposed to analyze? So there are operations, some operations are successful, some operations are not successful, and so on. But which operations are successful, which operations are not successful? How can you identify? Let us say we'll check how many operations are successful if the age of patient is less than 40, or how many operations are successful if age of patient is above 60. How many operations are successful if age of patient is between 40 and 50? How many operations are successful if age of patient is between 50 and 60? It's like Corona, na? Now our government and all over the world, people are analyzing if there are deaths due to Corona. What are the problems? How many people are aged people? How many people are young people? How many patients are having other disease like high blood pressure, high diabetes, or low blood pressure, or any other issues? So basically what they are doing, they are analyzing the data. They are analyzing the data with some perspective. So now we are going to analyze the data with some perspective, like what is the rate of, or what is the chance of successful operation if age of patient is less than 40? What is the chance of successful operation if age of patient is between 40 and 50? What is the chance if age of patient is between 50 and 60? And what is the chance if age of patient is above 60, and so on? That we are going to do right now. So our updated data is in updated.csv file. So we'll be using that file only. Class, are you with me till now? So, okay, thank you, class. So let us say data array we have, and we are splitting our line into a array using line dot split. But as we have already seen, it will give us a string array. But what we want is a character array. But what we want is a character array. So the simple thing to do जो हम लोगों ने यहाँ पे किया था is something like that. Am I right? But here there is a problem. I'm not saying it is a wrong thing, but here there is a problem. What is the problem? Only programmer knows what is there in data array of 0, what is there in data array of 1, data array of 2, data array of 3. Let us say I gave, after few days, I gave you this code. Do something in the code. And your first question will be, what is data array of 0? What is data array of 1? I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is. And why it happened? Because you don't know what data array of 0 is. This is not a meaningful name. Data array of 0 is not a meaningful name. Data array of 1 is not a meaningful name. It's a simple thing. So can we solve this problem? Yes, we can solve this problem. So here, instead of using list comprehension, we will be using tuple comprehension. Instead of using list comprehension, we are using tuple comprehension. So here, entire thing is same. The only difference is, instead of square brackets, now I am using tuples. Instead of square brackets, now I am using angular brackets. And with simple difference, it becomes tuple comprehension. And now if I will print this data array, so what it is saying, it is a generator object. What it is saying is it is a generator object, and something like that. So if you have revised that generator object and everything, so I can write something like this. I can write age, comma, year, comma, let us say count, comma, outcome. And now let me print this age, comma, year. So age contains age of every patient, year contains year of operation. So what it does, this is a shortcut. It's like this will create a generator object. And how many values are there in the generator object? There are 4 values. First value is age, second value is year, third value is count, that how many cells are there, and fourth value is success or failure, that is outcome. So that's why we have written here 4 values. That's why we have written here 4 variables. So first value will go to age, second value will go to year, third value will go to count, and fourth value will go to outcome. And now you all can agree that these are meaningful values. You all can agree that these are meaningful values. Suppose instead of something like this, I'm writing only 2 values. What will happen? You cannot do this. Why? Too many values to unpack. Too many values to unpack. Why? There are 4 values and we have mentioned only 1. And now it's okay. So this is a shortcut that how many things we have did in one line of code is, we split that line using comma, we iterated all the values in that array, convert those values into integer, created a generator object out of those things, and every value from the generator is extracted into one variable. Every value from that generator is extracted into one variable, and these variable names are very meaningful. These variable names are very meaningful. Class, any doubt in this thing? I know it's a bit tricky, but I hope you have understood it. Yes, class? Any doubt? Should I explain this part one more time? So Ashwini is saying no doubt. What about others? So explain one more time. Okay. Shubham is saying no doubts. Okay, someone is saying no doubts. Yes, explain one more time. Okay, explain it one more time. Let's go one thing at a time. So it was something like for line in, sorry, not line. I can write for val in line dot split. What it will do? It will split the line based on comma, and for loop can iterate through those values one at a time. So what we want to do is we want to convert these things into integer. So we will write int val. Am I right? And if I'm writing square bracket over here, if I'm writing square bracket over here, like say x is equal to something like this, and I'm printing x. Now x is our list, because this is a list comprehension, But everyone knows this thing. Now, instead of square bracket, if I'm using angular bracket, I'm using angular bracket. Suddenly this becomes a different concept in a Python. And if I'll run this, now this x is a generator object. So now instead of list comprehension, it becomes generator expression. Instead of list comprehension, it became a generator expression that we discussed in last session. So, but in this generator object, how many values are there? 4 values. Am I right? Like this: age of a patient, year of operation, how many cells are there, or how many blocks are there, and whether the operation was successful or unsuccessful. Since we know the sequence also, we, instead of x, we are writing age, comma, year, comma, count, how many cells or blocks are there, and then we are writing outcome. And since instead of using one object, we are using 4 objects. Instead of using one object, now there are 4 variables. So Python, what Python will do, Python will take one value from generator object and copy into age. That will be first value. It will take second value from generator, copy it into year. It will take third value from generator, copy in count. It will take fourth value from generator and copy it into outcome. So now this is a generator expression, and from generator expression we are extracting the values into meaningful variables. This is what we did over here. अगर हमें ऐसा कुछ नहीं करना रहता, if I'm going with something like this, like this is a list array, and then we need to write something like this: age is equal to data array of 0, then year is equal to data array of 1, just to make it more meaningful. But this is unnecessarily increasing the size of a code. First convert it into array of integers using list comprehension, and then assign meaningful variables to it. Just to avoid these things, we can simply delete this thing, and we can write everything in one line using generator expression. Class, any doubt now? Yes, class. Shubham, I hope you got it. So Shubham, you have no doubt, or you didn't understand it? It is something what, so now we discuss was something like stream, na? Yesterday we discussed na ki, if we are not using if we are using generator expression, or if we are not using next keywords, then it can pass all values at the same time, like stream. So it is like that only. And no, it is not only generator expressions. There are other ways of doing this also. So generator expression can pass values, but there are other ways also. Normally this works with tuple, not with list. Shubham, normally this works with tuple, not with list. And generator expressions data type is, sorry, generator expression uses tuple internally. That's why it works with generator expression. But it does not work with list. It does not work with list, Shubham. Okay, Shubham, thank you. So now we can check, but how many year categories we are planning over here? We are considering 4 year categories. Age categories. We are considering 4 age categories like age number. What about patients below 40? What about patients? That is our first category. Second category is above 40 but below 50. Third category is above 50 but below 60. And fourth category is above 60. So there are 4 categories. So we are creating an array of length for. We are creating an array of length for survival is equal to 4 into 0. So here we are creating a list of length 4 with value 0. Here we are creating a list of length 4 with value 0, and we want to count the patient in each age group also. We want to count the patient in each age group also. That's why we are creating one more array of length 4 with initial value as 0. So if I'll print it over here, let us something like this, print survival, and I am printing, let us say, total. So you can observe this is a survival list and this is a total list. So what it's saying, in every age group there are initially 0 values. So all the values are initialized to 0. Is everyone with me? Okay. So now we'll use our if statement over here. Simply if age is less than 40. If age is less than 40 means what? This is a patient with age group less than 40. So we'll say total of 0 plus equal to 1. So here what we are using, we will be using first location of a list to store the we will be using first location of a list to store the information of patient whose age is less than 40. We'll use first location, we'll use 0th location of a list. Sorry, we'll use 0th location of a list to store the information of patient whose age is below 40. We'll use first location of a list to store the information of patient whose age is above 40 but less than 50. We'll use second location of a list to store the information of patient whose age is above 50 but less than 60. And we'll use third location of a list to store the information of patient whose age is above 60. Whose age is above 60. So it is something like this. 0th location for less than 40. Then first location for 41 to 50. Then second location for 51 to 60, and then third location for 60 above. Is everyone with me? Any doubt in this thing? Which location we'll be using for storing the information of which patient? So if age is less than 40, then we are using total count. We are incrementing the value of total array. Then we are checking if outcome double equal to 1. Outcome double equal to 1 means what? Patient has survived for more than 5 years. Means what? Patient has survived for more than 5 years. Means our operation was successful. So we are increasing the value of yes, Kevin, thank you. I should write age less than equal to 40. Then I am increasing the value of survival of 0 by 1. So if patient is survived for more than 5 years, then only we are supposed to increase the value, or otherwise we are not increasing the value. But the moment age of patient is less than equal to 0, we are increasing the value of total count. We can use same loop every time. I can copy paste the thing for if age is not less than 40, then we can check if is age less than 40. No, then we can check if if age is less than or equal to 50, means if it is not less than 40 means it is above 40. Now we are checking, okay, if it is above 40, then is it less than or equal to 50? If yes, then again we can copy paste the same thing, but we know for the age category below 50 we are using location 1. So we are increasing the total of 1 by 1, and then we are checking whether the outcome is 1 or not. If outcome is 1, then we are increasing survival of 1, not location 0 by 1. Similarly, now we can copy paste the code for other things. Copy, paste, and now we can check it for age group 60. If it is above 50 but less than 60, we'll be using location 2. And if it is not so, means the age of person is above 60. In that case, we are using location 3. We are using location 3. So basically here, it is there are 4 conditions: less than 40, 40 and 50, 50 to 60, and anyone above 60. Anyone above 60. And now if we'll print over here that survival list, and we are printing the total list over here. So we can check. There were 43 patients below age 40 but survived 39. 93 patients were in the age group of 40 to 50 and 64 survived. There are 93 patients in the age group of 50 to 60 and 67 survived. And there are 77 patients above the age of 60 and only 55 survived. So any doubt, anyone? And we can make it a more meaningful using print statement, something like this. We can go for like a print. We can give a print statement like a survival rate of patients below age group 40 is something like this, and I want to round it off to 2 points only, or 2 decimal points only, and here I'm writing format. So survival rate is means what? How many patients were survived? How many patients were survived? So that is in survival array of 0 divided by total number of patients in that group. So survival of 0 indicates how many patients survived in an age group. This in an age group of 40 to 50, less than 40, and how many total patients were there. If I'll run this thing, the survival rate is 0.91, but this is 0.91. I want it in a percentage, so I can multiply it by 100. So someone is saying we also have to check that age is above 41 and less than 50. So let me answer your doubt. See, we don't need to check here for above 40, because when we say less than 40, if this condition is true, means age is less than 40. If this condition is false, means what? The age, and we go into else part, it means what? Age is above 40 only. Now we are checking okay, when we are in else part, we know that age is above 40. We are simply checking whether it is less than 50 or not. If it is not less than 50, okay, you got it. Thank you. So we are printing the survival rate. Survival rate means what? How many patients survived for more than 5 years divided by total number of patients. And we are multiplying it by 100 just to get the numbers in proper percentage format. We can copy paste this thing one more time, and we can say survival rate of patients in age group of 41 to 50. In a age group of 41 to 50 is And since it is a 41 to 50, we will say survival of 1 divided by total of 1. So this is survival rate. Then again copy paste it for 51 to 60. So it is 51 to 60. So that is 72. And then we can go for above 60. So for that I'm copying first line. It will be patient of above age 60 is, and for that we are using index number 3. So the maximum chance is when the age is less than 40. Yes. Yes, Anurag, you can use it use it using print statement also, but this format is a better way to print it because you can specify how many digits you want, whether you want left alignment, right alignment, or anything else. Okay, Anurag is asking what if you want to print percent symbol. So Anurag is asking what if I want to print the percent symbol. So if you want to print percent symbol, you can print it something like this, and here I'll it's 90%, 68%. If we want, we can give a space also, so it is more readable. Yes, Anurag. Okay. So that's it for today class. This was like how you can analyze the data present in a CSV file. This is the very basis of data science, or to be more precise, this is the very basis of data analytics or data engineering, where we are reading the data, modifying the data according to our requirement, and then performing some operation on it. I just